Thank you, Ellen, and welcome to all of you. Really appreciate you coming. A very good morning, good afternoon to folks joining from different parts of the globe. So it's a pleasure to join all of you along with my peers, Hardik, Suthar, and Udgam, so that we can share with you the recent innovations and specifically around sustainability what we're doing in the release of the CSRD premium template or the Corporate Sustainability Regulation Directive. So thank you again for joining. And let's dive into the topic straight away. Now, if you look around us, the digitization has pretty much increased, right from checking our balances of the bank account on the mobile to the social connectivity on the mobile. Pretty much mobile and digital have become the way we live. And a lot of folks are also living a digital life compared to the life our parents used to have 20, 30, 40, 50 years back. Now, as this digitization has increased, so is the need for governments as well as standards organization to come up with regulation. And pretty much we know there's a lot, to be done on the compliance side. And as we speak, and as you see on your screen, a lot of regulation and standards are being put together. And so we are starting to see a world where a lot of these regulations are coming from government bodies. The regulations could come from the vertical industries like automotive or banks, like you take an example of autonomous vehicles where use of AI or some technological advances which are rapidly changing that industry, which is kind of forcing the regulators to look in this area and then come out with regulations and laws so that the manufacturing organizations can build safer vehicles. So the point I'm trying to kind of share is as we move more and more digital and as we have more and more utility as well as life items having digital nature, we're bound to see more and more regulations coming up. What we're also seeing is some of the drivers today for compliance, and the newest entrant, I would say, is AI. All of us, specifically in last 2 years, were amazed by what GPTs and chat GPTs can do, which kind of started a wave of co-pilots. And today, if you have to deploy Copilot, you're always kind of thinking, hey, can I deploy Copilot, which is an AI utility tool, in ways which I'm compliant to AI regulations? Because recently all of us are hearing there's a lot of AI regulation from NIST or ISO 42000 or recently European AI regulation. And the other drivers is also ensuring that if I have to put AI in my organization, can I have standards which I can follow so that in my organization, the data which I have is not rotten, it's not stale. So that's the new entrant as one of the business drivers which we see, in addition to some of the other business drivers which were always powering the need to be compliant, which was, can I have a way in which I can have automatic systems which are making me aware of new regulations, new changes, and then also a lot of us who are in the, I would say, business of compliance and risk management, we often see that we are required to do audits, and most of these audits were done by consulting firms, uh, generally referred as Big Four and others. And when you do these audits, today I think a point has come where a lot of CIOs are coming and saying, hey, I want an audit, and can the audit be done in a real time? And there's a kind of a point in time audits that used to be done earlier, where you had the last audit 6 months back or 12 months back. And the challenge with these audits is it only gives you your security posture at that point in time. What if the configurations have changed since the last audit? And your security posture is now not as strong as it was on the day you had an audit. So is there a way, can there be tools, can there be systems who kind of move from a point-in-time audits to real-time audits. And we also see now a lot of organizations realizing that even to get compliant, it takes time. You can't get compliant to an ISO or an NIST or CSRD regulation, which is a topic of a discussion today, in a matter of minutes. It takes effort, it takes days, it takes different stakeholders. And when at an organization level, you are trying to get compliant and the various stakeholders involved as part of that compliance journey, it's but obvious you need to collaborate a lot. And if you need to collaborate a lot, then it's also critical to collaborate in fashion which is easy, convenient, versus collaborating on Teams and email, which could be taxing at some point in time. And in addition to a critical business driver, in addition to this is, in case I could have a system which helps me become compliant, it has benefit of real-time assessment. It helps me staying collaborative with other stakeholders, including the other stakeholders performing action. Now, the key thing is, if I have certain controls which I know are non-compliant, can I also get technical direction how to do it? And this probably is a key ask from a lot of organization, if there could be a guidance as well. So here is it. We present to you Compliance Manager for folks who are not aware of this service. So Compliance Manager is a primary tool which sits in the Purview family, which helps you with these business drivers. But today what I'm talking is a little different. Most of the time we had sessions around Compliance Manager where we were talking of IT regulations, regulations like NIST, regulations like ISO 27000, or in-country regulations like GDPR or other laws. But today I'm talking of a very different regulation, which is CSRD, and it differs a lot. This is the regulation which focuses on sustainability efforts. It's a regulation which is fairly different. So let's study quickly about what this regulation is, and what is that we're building and doing around this. So before we go into the regulations, so a short summary is Compliance Manager becomes a primary tool which helps us get compliant, stay compliant, and it gives us a visibility into the security posture that we have, which is what the tool does for us. It today has a library of over 380 plus regulations, and this is a tool which we have built over the last 2 years. It's available to customers who have E3 or E5, and it's intuitive. It gives you a score, so it has gamification built in it. You have 382 assessments. When we started, we roughly had 100 plus. Over a period of time, we've added more regulations in the tool. When you go to the regulation tab, it's called a library where we have the regulations, and CSRD regulation is the newest one. And the third topic is what I was talking of, collaboration efforts. So the tool not only gives you regulations out of the box, which are fully interpreted for you to use at like 3 clicks, but it also has a repository where you can store the evidences and also then connect it to the audit, so that tomorrow, if you need to present a case, either because of a litigation or your management wants a trail of when what activity was done, it probably has both the collaborative and audit feature built. Now, enough said about Compliance Manager. Let's move into what this new CSRD regulation is and how customers like you, partners like you, could leverage Compliance Manager as a tool to help become CSRD compliant. So let me go through basics of CSRD for some of you not fully aware of what it is. So CSRD, as the name suggests, is a Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive. So it's a directive, it's a law. It requires companies to report on the impact of the corporate activities on the environment and society, and requires an audit or an assurance. So it has a clause which says you need to be audited by the third party. Now, it's pretty much similar to what we see, or we already know and we are seeing in for thousands of years, which is the financial record. So all of us pretty much, when we're to look at companies, whether it's Microsoft or Google or Facebook or any other company in the geography that you're operating in, you basically go to the stock exchange or to the company portal and look at the financial data of that company and the financial data globally, there is a standard so that whichever company is reporting they're doing good or not doing so well comes in a standard format. Similarly, on sustainability, this is a directive that all companies, and we'll come to which companies come in the gamut of reporting, but this is a directive from the EU that you as a company need to report, for the sustainability aspects. Now, it's a NFRD. What it means is CSRD, which is the Corporate Sustainability Reported Directive, is not a financial reporter. So you're not reporting any financial number like accounting and profit and loss, but you're reporting what is called as green activities. Now, green activities are the activities which refer to the economic activities that contribute substantially to the environment objectives, such as climate change mitigation, climate change adaptation, sustainable use and protection of water, marine resources, transition to a circular economy, which is what all of us probably silently have gone through. Is we probably use less paper today and we're more digital. So we have transitioned to a very different circular economy. And now if you see around yourself, we as a population, we as humans are moving into a circular economy, which is powered by the EV or the electronic vehicles instead of the fossil fuels or the coal and the petrol and the diesel or the gas-based vehicles. Pollution prevention and control again becomes part of green activities, which needs to be captured and reported on, and protection and restoration of biodiversity ecosystems. So the entire ecosystem of the planet is what the focus is from a reporting perspective, but not from a financial angle, but what kind of a green activities you're doing. So green activities in context of EU taxonomy includes various initiatives that contribute to the environment sustainability. If I take a automobile industry, let's say in Germany, it could be production of EVs, manufacturing of electric cars that have zero emission during operations. And it also focuses on how you're producing it and the impact of that product to reduce the air pollution and greenhouse emission. It also means for another manufacturer who may not be in the car, are you manufacturing energy efficient products? So you may be manufacturing an air purifier, or you may be manufacturing an air conditioning system. Are you manufacturing it so it uses low amount or less amount of energy? So which is implementing energy efficient technologies and renewable energy sources there. And also then creating a circular economy there, which is all the activities of the green aspect of the green activities. Now, if you look at the other aspects of CSRD is the reporting standards. So if you have to report in US, then there is a format in which the report or the annual report has to come. There's a set SEC format, which is the Security Exchange Commission in US, which says if you're reporting profit and loss, you've got to report in this format. You've got to report operating expenses in this format, and all the organizations use the same format so that there is a common yardstick. Similarly, if you look at the sustainability or CSRD, it says, look, if you're going this path, which you have to because it's a directive, you got to follow the ESRS, which is the European Sustainability Reporting Standard. So these are set of guidelines again developed by European Financial Reporting Advisory Group, which is EFRAG, which came out probably with the financial standard. Similarly, they've come up with the sustainability reporting standards based on which you have to report for environmental, social, and governance, which is called or simply referred as ESG. And within these reporting, like when you do a financial reporting, you'll say, before you come to profit and loss, you'll say inventory balance. You'll say, look, I had manpower, I had to pay rent, then I had manufacturing expenses, I had to have a factory, which is a capex and opex. Now, there are taxonomies and terminology when you do financial reporting. Now, similarly, here you do have a concept of double materiality. Again, not going into the regulation, but it says outside in and inside out. So this is the perspective considers how external environment and social factors like climate or tax benefit, if you go green, impact the financial performance and long-term profitability of what you're doing. And inside out, again, it's a kind of an impact materiality. And this perspective examines how is a company you are operating. Are you in a building which is green? Is your manufacturing process green? So those are the concept that also get kind of calculated, which means if you produced X number of cars, how much water did you consume? How much electricity did you consume? So those are the kind of metrics that kind of get captured and fairly. I think all of us, specifically folks on the call, we're going through a time. It's critical to look at the climate and the climate impacts because of the corporate sustainability directive. So looking at which companies are impacted, because now you'll be thinking, hey, is my company impacted? What's the timeline? So I'll just give you a view, a disclaimer there. While this is what is as of today, again, based on, given it's a CSRD, it's a law, the European Union and the governments there could decide to change. So it's always advisable to go on their websites and look at what's the updated reference. But just so that you're aware of it, the intent is starting in 2024, which we already in, large companies and listed companies, excluding the micro small companies, will be required to comply with CSRD, which means all these companies in their annual reports, like their annual reports, have to have a CSRD reporting as well. So these are companies which should be meeting few criterias like 250 employees or more, 40 million euros and net turnover, and then some asset criteria. Like I said, it's best to go and kind of revalidate that if it's not getting changed. And by 2026 is when the expectation is that even the small and medium-sized enterprises or SMEs will need to align to the CSRD requirements. And this staggered timeline will ensure that the small and medium enterprises have some more time compared to the large ones. Now, if you are not a manufacturing company in EU, you don't have an office in EU, but you do business in EU, by 2028, non-EU companies that again generate over, as of today, 150 million euros in the EU market must comply to the CSRD regulations as well. So as you see, the idea is to get the big guys first, gradually the small guys, and then even the guys who don't have an operating manufacturing unit or office in EU, but do business there. So that's a quick view on what CSRD is. And now let's jump into our IT thoughts. If I have an organization and I have to be compliant to CSRD, how can Microsoft help me? So here is a slide. So Microsoft today gives you certain solutions which can help you. And the first solution and the solution journey that you'll take is you'll probably have to collect the data on all the green activities that you're doing. And the question comes, okay, I've collected the raw data around the environment and social and governance work that I'm doing. Now we're giving you a solution in the Microsoft Fabric. You can ingest all this data in the Fabric, which is, our journey begins by transforming data into actionable insight, and you can see the visualization. So step one on your journey would be where all this data you're inserting into Fabric. The step two is when you go to the Microsoft Compliance Manager or Purview Compliance Manager, where you select CSRD as a regulation. Now remember, all your data you already entering into the Fabric. The second is you're going into a Purview Compliance Manager and creating a CSRD regulation as an assessment for your organization. The third is you want the compliance manager, the Purview Compliance Manager, to read the data, the raw data, and the visualizations that you can see from the Fabric That's the role of a connector. So you go configure a connector which ingests these data points, calculates the emission from the raw data, and then gives you a reporting interface. And you can also track the time to get compliant, and also then depending on if the data shows you in the regulation, in the assessment, that there are to-do actions by different teams, whether it's a team which is looking into the water, whether it's a team which is looking into some manufacturing process, whether it's a team which is looking into the disposition of the raw material or any lithium or some chemical that gets generated, you can again use Compliance Manager to delegate actions to those teams so that they can update their business processes. And once they update business process, you again have to go through the same journey where the new data that you get collected of the updated business processes go into the fabric and the connector, because you already configured. So just remember the connector will take 48 hours, up to 48 hours to pick all the data from the fabric, populate the assessment to show it green so that you can track where you are on the compliance journey of the CSRD, and then also leverage your journey as an evidence which you could show to the regulator or to your management. So while this is a process, I thought I'll also add this slide while we spoke about CSRD today, which is the topic. But in addition to CSRD, we've recently also released these 3 new templates on the Purview Compliance Manager, which is NIST AI Risk Management Framework. We've also released the European Union AI Artificial Intelligence regulation there. And we've also released recently the ISO 42001, which again is a regulation that helps you stay compliant when you build the AI system. So we have over 381 out of the box assessment templates today. The recent one that we've released are on your screen. Now, while the topic is CSRD, I am so glad to welcome Hardik, who's my peer, who's, I would say, the builder of Compliance Manager as a platform, to come and share with us the journey around the CSRD. So, well, Hardik, welcome. Over to you, mate.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashish. A quick check. Ashish, you can hear me, right?
Oh, all good. Thanks. Welcome.
Awesome.
And welcome again. Go ahead.
Awesome. So hey folks, let me introduce myself. I'm Hardik Suthar. I'm part of the Microsoft Purview Compliance Manager team, and I takes care of the engineering effort for this service that I'm going to talk about. So in today's discussion, I'll walk you through about how easily you can set up a CSRD compliance, CSRD assessment using Microsoft Fabric, Microsoft Compliance Manager, and Data Connector service to navigate through your end-to-end sustainability compliance and audit process. So without taking much of your time, let me directly jump to the display. So before starting the point, so Microsoft Compliance Manager enables you to stay compliant with best-in-class industry regulations that is available
I think, are you sharing
upfront for you.
something?
Yeah, I have shared my
Okay,
screen.
awesome. Thanks.
Uh, is it visible?
Yes, it's all good.
Awesome. Okay. So yeah, Microsoft Compliance Manager will enable you to get compliant with CSRD assessment. So what does that mean? Is that, hey, for any given time, if you have your sustainability disclosure data that is available in Microsoft, which is in raw format, or in any of the mode that you have stored with, Compliance Manager will utilize that data, provide you the right set of computations and right set of the requirement mapping, which will help you to easily navigate through your sustainability or CSRD audit journey. So with that, how can you do that? It's a 3-step process. The first is you prepare your data and you publish it via your sustainability fabric experience. Step number 2, you create your assessment in Compliance Manager and you get access to direct access to your sustainability disclosure data in Microsoft Compliance Assessment in real time. And the third step is at the time of your audit process, you display or you disclose that data to your auditor to ensure right set of information is available in front of you at every given time. Since this data access is real time, at any given time, your audit process will always reflect the updated data or the updated disclosure information that has been provided to the system. So with that, how can you set up? So first step is I'm at the corporate sustainability disclosure experience, which is available as part of the Microsoft Fabric service, where you can provide your disclosure information. And here on left hand side, you see all the different disclosure requirement has been published in the form of the Fabric knowledge base, which is, for example, E53D, E41A, E41B, E43, and so forth. Now, each of these knowledge base will have the disclosure or the sustainability information in the given format that is essential or that has been provided by the customer service or your any of the linked disclosure data information support, whether it is IoT and so forth. Once you have the data stored in the Microsoft Fabric disclosure service, the second step comes is to build the connectivity between Microsoft Purview and the Microsoft Fabric service. And that process requires you to set up a connector. Connector setup is a two-step process where in Microsoft Purview, you have the built-in capability of data connector service, where one of the option is Microsoft Sustainability Data Connector. You click on Add Connector, it will take you to connector adding journey where you need to provide your tenant information and your authentication information. Once the connector setup has been done, Purview service will take Purview service and Microsoft Compliance Manager will take care that all your disclosure data is floating correctly to Compliance Manager. Once your connector setup has been done, the next step comes to setting up the assessment. You go to Microsoft Purview Compliance Manager, where out of the box you have all the disclosure requirement has been grouped in a proper categorization, which has been in alignment with the already published sustainability compliance requirement. Here it could be ERS1 climate change. You can see on the screen, there is a climate change, there is pollution related requirements, water and marine resources and biodiversity and so forth. On the right hand side, you can see that there is a create assessment option is available. Once you click on create assessment option, it will ask you to name the assessment. It will take you to the three-step assessment creation journey, where the primary objective is to identify what regulation that you want to comply with and what is that connector service based on which you want to link your disclosure data. So assume that I have provided the data here. Now the next step would be, hey, I want to link the connector here for the since this is a demo purpose. This will be a walk-in experiences, but the same experience you will find it where once you set up the connector, you will see that same connector would be available on the right hand side listed here. You choose that connector and your job is done. Once once you choose that connector, it will do the all the due diligences behind the back, and compliance manager service will seamlessly work and collaborate with your sustainability service and provide the data handshake between both the service. Now the differentiating value here comes is that all your raw data or the basic information that has been provided in your disclosure framework or disclosure fabric will be available with calculated in alignment with your disclosure requirement within Compliance Manager. What does that mean? Let's take an example of action number or the requirement number E341A. E341A says that the disclosure requirement is required by paragraph number 24 in the standard guidelines, and all the disclosure data should be available. Here on the bottom side, you can see that whatever the disclosure data in Microsoft Fabric service, where it has been provided in the basic format, has been processed, has been calculated properly in alignment with the basic requirement, and has been reflected within these particular compliance manager action service upfront in your desktop, upfront on your screen. With that, here you can see that in 2022, the water consumption requirement has been provided here as somewhere around 6.1 million cubic meter or so forth. And you can also see that last when this disclosure data has been updated and from where it has been calculated. So at every given time, this service will read the accurate data, processes it in real time, and ensures that all your sustainability compliance related information is upfront available to you to ensure your audit process drives smoothly. So that is the value of your value of the compliance manager and automated disclosure data availability. Now at the time of audit, your auditor will comes to your compliance manager screen, and they'll find that if the disclosure data has been provided is accurate, they will mark certain activity as green, which means it has been as per the alignment, as per the requirement. They will also provide certain notes if it is required. And once that has been done, your compliance requirement and audit process would be fulfilled. And the same would be applied to all your disclosure or all your sustainability requirement that has been published in the corporate sustainability regulatory framework. So with that, using Microsoft Fabric, Microsoft Compliance Manager, and Microsoft Data Connector service, you can provide the end-to-end communication to your sustainability compliance requirement and ensure that your audit process is being driven smoothly and you have the all the reporting upfront available for your auditor. So with that, I'll hand it over back to Ashish, and I'll open this forum for a question, if any.
Thank you, Hardik and Ashish. There's been a few questions that came in and were answered. Perhaps there will be more coming in. So there's also one that is open, and we'll tackle that one. So the question goes, is there more information regarding setting up the data fabric?
So there is
Sure.
yeah, go ahead, Hardik.
Yeah. So there is a documentation of setting up the Microsoft Data Fabric is also available, where we have explained the in step by step how you can set up your disclosure or ESG Lake and the Data Fabric account and provide the information about your disclosure data. So we'll point you to we will share you the documentation link, which you can refer.
Thank you, Hardik. Yes, that would be great if you could share that with the audience. We'll move on to the next questions. Is there a way that an audit in Compliance Manager overlaps with an audit in Secure Score? There are some standards that are available in both tools, like CIS Benchmark Foundation for M365.
Sure. So let me answer that. So for the CIS standard, Compliance Manager is in the direct sync with Secure Score, which means that all your CIS controls and frameworks and your activities would be as equal, will be synced to Compliance Manager. However, in the case of the sustainability regulation, it is only available exclusively on Microsoft Compliance Manager.
Great, thank you. Moving on to the next one. Actually, before we go to the next one, there is this sub questions that came back from the fabric answer, from the data fabric answer you provided. So he's asking, can you give an example? I mean, how we collect and enrich data with Fabric for this purpose?
Okay, so let me understand your question correctly. So how a user can collect the Fabric data is that the answer in or disclosure data, and they can ingest it in Microsoft Fabric?
Yes, and if you could provide an example for that, perhaps maybe.
Okay, so let me reshare my screen and give you a brief. With the interest of time, I won't be able to explain you in detail, but let me walk you through a brief overview on how you can provide the data. So I'll reshare my screen. Please confirm when it's visible.
Hmm.
Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the UI that you are seeing right now on your screen. So in the documentation, there are links that I'll share after this session. You will see in detail that how you can set up this environment. That is the prerequisite, and for that it requires you need to register your application with Microsoft Azure Active account. Now, once you have set up that, this is the Fabric based UI, which is which is available in Microsoft Fabric URL. It is also available in the documentation. The exact link is also available. Now here, what you can see, just give me a second. Let me bring the highlighter. Okay. Yeah. So first thing, what you can see here is on the location where you can capture the data. So there is a folder called as a 2023 disclosure reporting data, and under that there is a file called as a metadata.json. Now this folder will have bunch of the requirements. It has been properly pre-populated. For example, E5 3D. So this is more that this kind of requirement has been, or this kind of categorization has been derived from the sustainability regulatory framework. So Microsoft reads this sustainability regulatory framework and it provides you this structurization for sustainability. As a user now, you directly or automatically, whatever option that works best for you, you choose one particular table, and it will, on the right hand side, it will open up the input section where you provide your sustainability disclosure data, all in alignment with your readings or your inputs. And once that has been done, it would all be preserved in the ESG lake.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to show this.
Well,
Yes,
I've
go ahead, Ashish.
also replied for a lot of customers, they can use the Microsoft Sustainability Manager Premium, and it has a lot of built-in connectors to collect data. And I'm sure when a lot of customers are having OT or IoT devices, then we'll have to look at what kind of connectors can ingest that data into the data lake, which then can be read by the Purview Compliance Manager CSRD template.
I see. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that resource. Yes, I noticed that you shared the link as well. Appreciate it. Moving forward, can you easily create an offline report for distribution is the next question.
So it's an interesting question. So I'm assuming offline reports, so there'll be two kinds of reports. One is how am I doing on my journey to CSRD? And second would be reports around the data that you've collected. So if you go to the Sustainability Manager Premium, then it gives you reports on your progress. So it gives you a visual and the performance tracking report. If it's purely on the data and the data that you've collected. And if you go to the CSRD regulation, then based on the data which is aggregating and showing you the result, you do get the performance report there as well. Now, while you could have an offline report for distribution, you could export out take a kind of a report, and what we're also doing from a Purview Compliance Manager is we would be in the future coming on a separate reporting section as well, where you could give we could give you more capabilities on download of reports section.
I see. Thank you for that, Ashish. Next one is, what regulation or assessment frameworks do you support? Example, do you support FedRAMP?
So interesting question. So today the compliance manager today has over 380 regulations that we support, and customers can create assessment. FedRAMP is one of them, but you would have a list which includes by area, by country, different regulations. As I said, over 380 is what we have today in the tool.
Thank you, Ashish. Moving on to the next one. Excuse me. Is there any way carbon credits that are aligned with CSRD regulations?
Very domain specific question. Don't have a firm answer. I think it will be good to look at EU guidelines on calculations and credits, if any, they're working towards green. My thought is they should be, but we'll have to look at what kind of a computation metric and what kind of a credits are available.
Thank you. Moving on to the next one. This one is about the licensing. If you could share any information around the licenses, that would be great.
I think thanks for asking question that just shows the interest in the topic. So from a licensing perspective, you would end up on two licensing SKUs. One is the Microsoft Sustainability Manager, which is a licensed one, and the other is I'm assuming a lot of you would already have E3 and E5. So if you are E3, then you can purchase a premium template with CSRD is a premium template. And if you are an E5 customer, then you do get up to 3 premium templates that you can choose from. So if you're an E5 customer, then you already have the license paid for CSRD premium regulation.
Thanks again. And the last question is how a company processes its data to fill the tables you have shown?
It is connectors, but I'll let Hardik add to that. When you go to the Sustainability Manager, where it does offer you connector, but I'll let him add in as to what other sources you can have. Thank you.
Yeah. So when a data has been entered, what we see is that there are additional supporting data is also being provided by users or its connected assets and services. Where in the case of the sustainability compliance requirement, where we see that there are certain specific metrics or informations are expected to be calculated. So sometimes it would be aggregated, sometimes it would be if it has been required for say 6 months. Generally sustainability, what we have seen is that it's annual update comes every year. So in the case of the disclosure data, when it is required to be calculated month on month basis, or it is being required to calculate on an annual basis, sometimes you need average. So based on every control requirement, there is a different methodology where based on which we whatever the user data. So generally a user provides their daily indicator or monthly indicator, or say sometimes weekly indicator also. Now from that, to convert it into a compliance related requirement, we do a basic processing and then we tag it. That is a brief reference. Now it varies based on the every control ask that being delivered in sustainability regulatory requirement.
Thank you, Hardik. There's another assessment framework question. So the one earlier was for the FedRAMP, and now the ask is, do we support Zero Trust and TIC 2.0?
We do have a zero trust assessment already in the compliance manager. In addition to that, Microsoft also has, if you do a search, a zero trust online assessment at Microsoft.com. TIC, I can get back to you, and if Hardik, you have a view, if please do ahead and share.
It's a TIC 2.0 that
Yeah.
is being referred.
That's something
Okay.
we'll check.
Okay.
We will
Got
check
it.
and we will revert back.
Okay.
We
Thank
don't
you.
have upfront the answer.
Got it. There's more questions, so trying to address them before the time ends here. So we have 10 more minutes. We should be good. When we have multiple assessments, reports, connectors, etc., does this have an impact on the compliance score?
Well, that's a great question. So even when you have the multiple assessments, multiple connectors, your individual sustainability score remains intact. However, a compliance score has been your aggregated or the consolidated view of your compliance posture, where sustainability has also been included. There are different features and capabilities that is provided in Compliance Manager, where if you want to track it separately, you can create it via our grouping functionality as well. But we have both the functionalities. You can track it individually and you can track it holistically as well.
Thank you, Hardik. How can I start using the suitability manager?
That is something I think I need to check and I need to revert back. Uh, I haven't explored much on the suitability manager and its relevancy with compliance manager.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next one. Is there a connector to the CO2 information in MS Dynamics Business Central?
Don't know. That's pretty much different product questions, so wouldn't have a view into that. Thanks for asking.
Thank you. Moving on to the next one. Are the data source audited or you just can cheat?
It's very interesting. So look, you're putting the data into data source. Now, the question is, can an insider cheat? And if he does, and if there is an audit, will it come? So look, you're putting data. You, in my opinion, if you do cheat, which is deleting or not putting complete data, it's electronic system, so it's getting audited. So the question is, if I cheat, can I get caught? The short answer is yes.
Okay, thank you for that. That's a good one. Moving on to the next one. So this one, I'll skip this one, but if somebody could post a link to the licensing, Wim has a question on some particulars. So that would be great. And
yeah, I have just shared a link on sustainability side, how you can set up, what is the license required and so forth. And for compliance manager, Ashish already spoke about the licensing few minutes back, I guess.
perfect. And now I think is the last one. So, okay, so this one, the last one is also another one about the license. There's a confusion, seems like instead of E5, can we add the license to tenant? So I don't know if you want to elaborate on that, any of you.
So I think I'll provide some clarity, but thanks for asking that again. Really appreciate that for benefit of others as well. Look, if you look at this CSRD, it's a template, and you download it from the regulation tab in Compliance Manager, and it creates an assessment. Now, bearing the jargon, we already gave you a list of 382 such regulations which are in the Compliance Manager. So if you have an E5 license in your organization, then you can choose CSRD as a template. So if you have E5, imagine E5 as a buffet, you already have access to any three premium templates. So you can choose ISO 27000, you can choose GDPR, and the third one, you can choose CSRD. If you don't have an E5 and you have an E3, then you can decide and either upgrade to E5, or you can go and just buy a la carte one premium template. Again, the cost of premium template, there would be a retail price, and then depending on the EA and the relationship that you have with Microsoft, you'll get your net of price if you choose to buy a la carte over an E3 license.
Well, thank you so much, Ashish and Hardik, for being our guests today and for sharing this great information with our community. Also, I would like to thank our SMEs who helped with answering the questions and providing the resourceful information. So to all the listeners still on the line, if you're someone who wishes to aid in the protection of the world from cyber threats and desires to have a say in shaping our strategies, blueprints, and recommendations, then please, we invite you to join or become part of our security community, because we believe that together we can make a global impact. So please join us at aka.ms/security community. This is also where you'll find or you'll be notified about the upcoming webinars. In fact, tomorrow you can catch us again on Microsoft Purview. We'll be talking about implementing the NIST AI, a roadmap to responsible AI, that is. Also, please take a minute submitting your webinar feedback at aka.ms/security webinar feedback. And for those of you who may have additional questions on the topic we just covered or other product related questions, please feel free to raise them on our Microsoft Tech Community discussion space. The space for the Microsoft Purview, or the short link for Microsoft Purview, is aka.ms/Microsoft Purview community. Thank you all for being part of our community and for joining us on these webinars. So we hope to see you next time. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.